All right, friends, as we often discuss on this program, and I'm sure you know, the Biden administration takes every cue that it does from the left, and it exerts, it seems like laser-like focus on things like pushing abortion until birth, environmental fanaticism, the LGBT agenda. Those type of things are laser focused items for this administration. And since the Dobbs decision in 2022, the administration has sought every backdoor and end around game possible to try to push abortion into law. In fact, last week, the Biden administration announced that it plans to add an abortion mandate to the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which was explicitly a pro-life law designed to help pregnant mothers. But now the Biden administration wants to use it to require employers to facilitate access to abortion. It's just another example of the Department of Health and Human Services going against, really against the rule of law. That's not what this law is all about, in this administration as well. They're trying to use HIPAA, just a host of things to go around Congress to push abortion. Joining me now to discuss this is Roger Severino. He's the Vice President of Domestic Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Previously served as the Director of the HHS Office of Civil Rights in the Trump administration. Roger, welcome back to Washington Watch. We appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure in every way. All right, so, I guess it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us that the Biden administration is attempting to get around both Congress and the U.S. Supreme Court. But that realization that we shouldn't expect less, I guess, this is just a brazen attempt from this administration to force abortion even within a pro-life piece of legislation.
Yeah, it's not surprising in one sense, but their creativity apparently knows no bounds when it comes to pushing abortion on the American people. As you mentioned, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, this was a bill designed to protect pregnant workers. What is the opposite of pregnancy? Abortion. Yet this administration, through EEOC proposed regulations, is saying that abortion is going to be a protected, enshrined right, that workers will have a right to an accommodation, even in pro-life states. And they're going to use a supremacy clause argument, saying that the federal law is going to push aside all the pro-life state laws that prohibit cooperation and assisting in abortion. So employers around the country are going to be forced to assist in abortions in violation of state law if the Biden administration gets its way in flipping what protection should have been for pregnant women on its head.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable how they try to go around every law, court decisions, the Supreme Court now, to push abortion on demand. And this was a bipartisan bill. Even one of the sponsors, Bob Casey, Congressman Casey, he even said, a Democrat, that this had nothing to do with abortion. Aren't I right with that?
That's right. He swore up and down that no, this would not require employers to pay for the abortion travel or abortion leave of their employees. Well, the Biden administration is ignoring that and saying, we don't care. Abortion, whenever the word pregnancy appears, they mean abortion, which of course violates common sense. But they've done this time and again. A lot of laws protect pregnant women, right? Sex discrimination laws in various forms. When they mention pregnancy, rightly so. But the Biden administration is taking something that is meant to protect life, the giving of life, pregnant women, to make it easier for them to bring their child to see the light of day, and flipping it and saying, no, we're going to make it easier for them to extinguish that life, regardless of what happened with the Dobbs decision, regardless of what states are doing to protect unborn life. And we're going to recruit employers as part of this machinery of death. It is a travesty that the Biden administration is doing this, but as you said earlier, it's not a surprise. They're not answering to the Constitution, they're not answering to the laws, they're answering to the extreme pro-abortion left. But that's where we are today.
Yeah, and it seems that's where they get every one of their marching orders from. So I want to make sure that I'm hearing you right. Under the proposed changes that they're trying to push, there would be no exceptions in pro-life states or for employers' conscience rights or any of that. All of that would be erased. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Now, on the religious freedom arguments, there of course will be arguments raised, and we're hopeful that the Supreme Court will say if you have religious objections to assisting with an employee's abortion, that they would be able to get protection. But the Biden administration doesn't care, right? They actually do not ever specify that there would be sufficient protections for businesses and business owners of faith that don't want to participate. Now, if whatever people think about the legality of abortion, the morality of abortion, a strong American consensus for decades has held you don't force people to participate in abortions against their will. You don't make them pay for it. You don't make them subsidize travel, leave. Your taxes don't go for it, the Hyde Amendment. But the Biden administration has declared war on all these conscience protections. They want everybody to participate in the taking of unborn life and abortion one way or another. And you mentioned earlier, even HIPAA. So I was the nation's HIPAA regulator under the Trump administration. And HIPAA, of course, protects privacy of medical records in hospitals, et cetera. The Biden administration is proposing to turn HIPAA on its head as well. It wants to make sure that doctors and nurses cannot cooperate with law enforcement in pro-life states when you have suspicions related to criminal violations of abortion laws. And they will say it is a criminal violation of HIPAA if you assist law enforcement in pro-life states. Again, they want to get everybody involved, either passively or actively, in furthering the machinery of abortion. That's how extreme this administration is.
Yeah, that is massively extreme, what you're talking about there. Surely, I mean, there will be lawsuits all over the place with this type of thing, I'm sure. But the fact that they are trying to take an end around and to push this against Congress, against the Supreme Court, is just stunning. Now, all of this, we're in the period, if I understand this, of public comment. There's a public comment phase in all of this. So speak to our viewers and listeners as to how they can get involved, perhaps to make a difference right now.
Yes, this is crucial. So with the HIPAA regulation, that time period for you to submit public comments is closed. The EEOC one, however, you could go on regulations.gov and search for the EEOC rule. Go on the Heritage Foundation websites. We'll also have portals on that. And you submit a comment objecting to the participation in the taking of unborn life by employers. Right? This is contrary to Dobbs. This is massive resistance that we haven't seen since the civil rights era, when certain recalcitrant states were resisting the integration of Americans in life based on race. Now we're seeing this based on the question of abortion. You could participate as just a regular citizen by submitting comments on regulations.gov. The government has to read it and respond to it. And if they don't, it actually opens them up to lawsuits. We saw this happen with the abortion pill. Recently, a Fifth Circuit decision upheld Judge Kaczmarek, a hero judge in Texas, who said that the abortion pill that was relaxed in terms of its safety protocols by this administration, that relaxation was unlawful. And the Fifth Circuit upheld Judge Kaczmarek's decision. Again, this administration is playing fast and loose, trying to make the abortion pill something like an over-the-counter vitamin. It is not. It is designed to end the child's life. It is dangerous to women, not to mention an unborn child. And the courts are now pushing back and saying, look, this abortion extremism is now endangering women's lives. You're saying you're about women's health. You're endangering women's lives by pushing do-it-yourself at-home abortions left and right without proper safety protocols. So those safety protocols are very likely going to be restored. And the Supreme Court is ultimately going to have to push back and say, our decision has to be respected. In Dobbs, Roe v. Wade is not the law in the land of the land. It never actually was because it's not in the Constitution. The law of the land is Dobbs, that the state and federal, clearly as well, federal governments can and should, in fact, protect unborn life, the most innocent among us.
So you said I want to make sure the place that people can go is regulations.gov, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, friends, we want to encourage all of you go there. This is the time to make some comments. And real quickly, we've got about a minute or so left. You mentioned the abortion pill. Would any of these proposed changes provide protection to the abortion pill, or is that a separate issue?
It's a separate issue. So the FDA was the one that rammed through the abortion pill in the beginning. So the Kaczmarek decision actually said that it was unlawful for a variety of reasons, one of which is pregnancy is not a disease. That's not a serious health illness. You don't treat a disease called pregnancy because pregnancy is part of life. It's natural. It's wonderful, in fact. And that's why we're all here. But the FDA treated pregnancy as some sort of disease that needed a cure, which is the abortion pill. And we're hopeful that the Supreme Court would revisit that. Additionally, the Comstock Act, which actually prohibits the interstate trafficking of abortion pills, is good law. Congress had a chance to reaffirm it in the 70s, and they left that portion of it untouched. So that is good law that the Biden administration, again, is ignoring. It is illegal today to use the mails to transmit and transport abortion drugs. The Biden administration is flatly ignoring the law.
Roger Severino, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for all the work you do, and everyone at the Heritage Foundation. Appreciate you joining us this evening.